The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Man, if you guys could hear the stuff we talk about before we hit the record button. Hey, everybody, we are back for another episode of Shootin'. And if you're listening to this and you've already listened to last week's episode, thank you so much for sticking around. We're so happy we didn't scare you away. We had some pretty controversial takes, and this episode is probably not going to be that much different. As always, I'm joined by my guys, the Premier Joey K and the Hot One Jay Minacho. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is Shootin'. I just gotta have a reason to play the beep every once in a while. So,
what is wrong with you?
I start piling on the investment money.
all right, everyone, we are back with episode 7 of Shootin'. And as always, like I said before, and I'm going to introduce them one more time because these guys are worthy of more than one introduction. So I introduce to you once again my co-host on this show we call Shootin', the Premier Joey K and the Hot One Jay Minacho. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
DDJ, we are doing fantastic tonight.
Are you sure? Because like I alluded to in the open, you were pretty animated in the discussion we had before we hit the record button.
Oh, animated? Not a chance, baby. Not a chance tonight.
No, Joe, before we let Jay say his peak, I just got to say you are full of...
Well, that may be true, but we're here not for a long time, just a good time. So let's kick this damn show off. Give me
Jay,
something.
how you doing
Hot
tonight? Jay, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to get on Joey's level. Joey's here, and I'm like down here. I need to raise it up because he's coming out shooting tonight. I need to try to shoot with him. We have to try to shoot with him. It's going to be a great show.
It's always going to be a great show, and let's get right into it. So we are recording this on Friday night, October the 8th, and this is on the heels of the season premiere of Friday Night SmackDown, and we saw the season premiere of Friday Night SmackDown mark the beginning of 2 tournaments, the return of the King of the Ring tournament, as well as the beginning or the start of the first annual Queen's Crown tournament, which is basically the female equivalent to the King of the Ring. As you see coming across the screen here, if you're watching this on YouTube, our question is going to be, who are we picking to win each tournament? And just so you guys can see, if you haven't seen the brackets yet, the first bracket I'm going to pull up here is the men's bracket. You can see we got Rey Mysterio going up against Sami Zayn, which that match already happened with Sami Zayn going over. And then we also saw Finn Balor defeat Cesaro. And I'm assuming the next 2 matches will have happened by the time this drops. We'll have had Kofi Kingston going up against former WWE champion Jinder Mahal. And then on the other end, we have fellow New Day member Xavier Woods going up against the one and only Ricochet. And now over on the women's Queen's Crown tournament, we have Toni Storm and Zelina Vega, which Vega defeated Storm on SmackDown. And then Carmella went over on Liv Morgan. And on the other side of the bracket, we have Doudrop going up against Natalya and Dana Brooke going up against Shayna Baszler. So, gentlemen, I ask you, who are you picking to win both tournaments? Jay, let's lead off with you.
In controversial fashion, I'll start this off with one take real quick. If Xavier Woods does not win the men's King of the Ring, it was all for naught. He's been the main one pushing this. He's been the main person that wanted to have this happen. Now it's here. It's his time. He's been having some great matches lately. He's been looking real good lately. It's Xavier time, but I need to see that Xavier Kofi Kingston matchup. That's going to be a key matchup to Xavier taking the whole thing. And on the women's side, they did Liv Morgan wrong, man. I just can't keep hoping that they'll push her one day. But I think it comes down to Zelina Vega or Baszler. It's going to be Zelina or Baszler. And in that matchup, I think they're wanting to push Shayna hard again. So I think Shayna's going to take it.
Joey, what do you got?
What he said. I hate to say it. I have about as much interest as this that I do wiping my rear end with sandpaper. I don't know. Like, who's in this? Like, do people have wrestling or something? They're supposed to be. I don't know. I think I saw Twitter blasting out there was about 3 minutes worth of women's wrestling all night. So obviously that should tell you how much they care about the Queen's Crown tournament. Yeah, we're back to 60-second women's matches. So wow, go Revolution, go. But no, actually, I really do agree with Jovan. If Woods doesn't win it, it's a crime. It really is, because Kofi, we had Kofi Mania. We have Big E and his current run as WWE champion. Such feel-good stories. Look, and I love Xavier Woods, but is he the guy that McMahon's ever going to put the heavyweight title on, the world championship? No, he's not. Like, which sucks, because it could be done really great. You could have a lot of fun with it. So I think this is kind of the give and take of it, where Woods might get the run. He'll be the king of the ring, and he has the perfect character to kind of have some fun with it. I really love that. So yeah, I really hope Woods pulls it off, gets the big win, wins the king of the ring. Let the New Day, enjoy their run right now, from Kofi Mania, then to Big E, and now have Woods get his spot and his shine. They all deserve it. I love them all.
Yeah, I'm gonna triple down on that, because when I saw these brackets, I kind of thought to myself, this is tailor-made for Woods to finally get some sort of significant push, and I think he stands to benefit more than anybody that's still in this tournament with this. And even I could see them taking it a step further, and he wins this, and he gets so full of himself that he actually ends up becoming, I think he could end up turning heel during this King of the Ring run, because he's that guy that everybody loves in the New Day, but I think he could easily just as easily be the guy that everybody wants to see get his ass kicked as well.
Consequences Creed.
Yeah. Matt, and then on the women, I was thinking when the brackets were announced, I was thinking, okay, it's either got to be Liv Morgan or Shayna Baszler. Obviously, it's not going to be Liv Morgan because she got dropped in the first round. But I mean, to me, then I thought about it, and I'm thinking, you know what? What was Shayna Baszler like? What was she known as?
The Queen of Spades.
Exactly, and there you go. Right in that tagline, or whatever you want to call it, nickname, the Queen of Spades. Who better? Rest in peace, Chris Kanyon. Who better than the Queen of Spades to be the first woman to wear the Queen's crown?
I like it.
So there.
Is it weird though that King Corbin, not even King Corbin, but King Nakamura wasn't in there? The Queen Charlotte wasn't in the women's.
I think more or less on SmackDown as well too. I believe King Nakamura actually gave up his crown, so he's going back to being known as Shinsuke Nakamura. As long as he still's got Rick Boogs with him, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not. Guy sucks.
Dude, man, come on. Don't hate on Boogs like that.
Okay, actually, no, I'm going to. I hate that gimmick. I hate that. Dude, Shinsuke Nakamura. More on this later. But Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't need a heater. He doesn't need some goof playing his guitar and screaming like an idiot. No, what Shinsuke Nakamura needs is that crown and walking down like he did at Wrestle Kingdom with the crown on his head, the title around his waist, and the King of Strong style absolutely beating ass all night. That's what he needs. That's what needs to happen 100%. No.
Ladies and gentlemen of this audience, that is what you call a tease, by the way. Because we may hear that name a little bit later on. So yeah, so we've all given our picks. We all agree with that. So let's move on and actually let us go to our next one here. Let's go with who is the most entertaining wrestler of all time. And this one, I thought of this because this was actually something that was being discussed on Busted Open Radio, and it kind of made you think, because when you think entertaining, we're not just talking like the best wrestler, because that's a completely different category. Because, you know, you can be like a hell of a wrestler, you know, a la, you know, Bret Hart or, you know, Chris Benoit or just Dean Malenko, like guys that can go. But like, you know, I mean, they're not, you know, really the best maybe at cutting promos, or, you know, they may not have, you know, the outward charisma, you know, type things like that. So this is more of like the total package, you know, entertaining, cuts a great promo, merge, you know, knows how to captivate an audience, and, you know, everything, basically, like I said, the total package. And
Lex Luger. Oh, no. Sorry.
Not that total package. But Joey, why don't you lead this one off?
I would love to. No one in this world, in any era, has captivated an audience, has made true wrestling fans feel the emotion in a match. No other athlete in the world has ever compared to the Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi. Absolutely. Hands down.
Garbage.
The most entertaining. No. All right. So
I was about ready to announce that we were going to have open auditions for the Premier's replacement.
No, okay. All right. Yeah. Choppy pee. No. So let's really though, I mean, the most entertaining. So you have to really go back and you look at a few different eras of, you know, what we're talking about, because this is an open era question, correct? This is open to any era.
Yeah, this is all time.
So all time. It's so hard, and I'm gonna have a pick that you guys might not agree with, but
it's your pick.
I would think so. I have to say The Rock.
That's not a bad choice.
I mean, there's a few, and trust me, there's a couple people I had, and I pissed Jovan off again. Here we go. Which we can have the same opinion.
Oh, hey,
we can be friends here.
Hey, before you, I'm sorry to interject, but off camera, make sure you have Jovan tell the story of how The Rock led to him getting an ass whooping on his birthday.
Oh, I'm all ears.
I've heard this story so many times, and it is one of the best stories ever.
All right, I need to hear this one because I haven't heard this one yet. So
we'll save it for after we're done recording.
Yeah, we'll keep that one off the air for now.
All right.
All right.
Sorry.
Back to my pick. The Rock had it. You know, was he maneuver wise, wrestling talent wise? Was he a step ahead of the 5 Moves of Doom? Yeah, a little bit. But his character didn't need all the technical ability that, say, a guy like Chris Jericho would need. Okay, just as an example. Which another guy who is probably in my top 3, maybe, but I don't want to step on any other toes just in case, just Jovan's right now. The Rock had it, though. On the microphone, when he became The Rock, when Die Rocky Die finally finished, those, even in the earliest days, the Nation of Domination days, he had a lower voice, a slower cadence, those things, not the Rock that we all think of now, that post, 2002 version, the one that comes back every now and then. But even in the slower cadence, you heard it. He had it, and he had the real heat, the heat that people absolutely want. Not the heat that's like, oh, we just don't even want to watch you, but that heat's like, I need to watch this guy because I want to see who's going to kick his ass. That's came through right away. And of course, over the years, now he comes out, he doesn't even have to speak. He says finally, and the roof blows off.
Yep.
That's all he has to say, finally, and done. The inside and outside of the ring, the guy's all business. If you hear the stories, he rode with guys that he just wanted to soak in, learn the business. And of course, I mean, I think now too, looking at his career, he's the biggest star in Hollywood, arguably, but I would say he's probably the biggest star in Hollywood at the moment. His outside business ventures, there's nothing he does half-ass, which always leads me to believe that he's learning. When he was on the road, late 90s, early 2000s, he's learning. He's picking things up. He's incorporating everything from his family, from all the people he surrounds himself with. So that's a guy that I think, as far as an entertainer, he learned his craft and perfected it. And I can't put anybody else above that right now.
Jay, who do you got?
I can answer that for you.
Well, okay. You got someone else in mind, or are you just gonna double down?
I don't want to double down, even though that was my 1A choice. Would have been the most electrifying man in all the sports entertainment. But wow. Took 1A off the table. Who do I go with next? I think the person that I'm going to go with had such a meteoric climb in the world of wrestling that it has never been seen since, and I quite frankly don't think it ever will be seen again. One simple catchphrase, one simple moment on the mic catapulted this former ring general to stardom.
Walter?
And that rocket went on his back and sent him straight to the moon.
Wait, Cameron Grimes?
Not Cameron Grimes.
It's not Walter?
It's not Walter, not yet. Walter's getting there. I'm going with Stone Cold Steve Austin himself.
All right.
As one of the most entertaining. He is my 1B. To every Rock, there has to be an Austin. Yes. Them two were magic in the ring. Yes, some people could claim that Austin's promo skills weren't the greatest. He was a redneck from Texas, but it's how we are. But, I mean, argue with me that the Austin 316 hasn't transcended wrestling. The What chant hasn't transcended wrestling.
What?
This solely based on everything that he's done for the industry and the short amount of time that he just took off, because it was literally overnight.
What?
From the ring general to stardom. My pick, my 1B pick, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Great picks, guys. Definitely can't argue against them, but I've got someone else in mind. And I'm going to go back a few years before The Rock. I'm going to go back a few years before Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm going to go back to sometime in the 1980s when a man who was the son of a plumber just captivated, just basically came out of nowhere and just really just was one of those guys that could just have the people in his hands with his promos. When people say to succeed in this business, you have to have it. Austin had it. The Rock had it. But I think this guy is the guy that pioneered it. And that is the one, the only, the son of a plumber, the son of Cody and Dustin Rhodes. I'm going with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
I like it.
And this is why. Because when people talk about the greatest promos of all time, one that's always mentioned is his Hard Times promo. And he talks about, and one of the things is when he cut that promo, he stuck his hand in the camera and he's like, reach out and touch me. Let me take you with me. And the thing is just so many people probably saw that promo and they did that. They believed in Dusty. They were behind Dusty. A lot of people identified themselves with Dusty because he wasn't like your typical, like 6 foot, 6'3", 280-pound muscle buff guy, like say like a Hulk Hogan. He wasn't even the build of say like someone like Ric Flair. I mean, he was basically he was a bigger guy who didn't look like he had the wrestling type of body, but man, he could go in the ring, and as good as he was in the ring, he was even that much better out of the ring with the promos. Like you said, the Hard Times promos, I've wined and dined with king and queens, and I slept in alleys and dined on pork and beans, just those promos, living on the edge of a lightning bolt, just everything he cut. And he got polka dots over.
Yep.
How many people how many professional wrestlers can honestly say that they got polka dots over? Yeah. I mean, he really was the common man, and he was the American dream. And it's just so many people identified with that, and so many people still to this day identify with that. One of my really good friends, Sean, who just recently had surgery on his shoulder to repair a torn rotator cuff. I love you, bro. Get well soon, man. That Dusty Rhodes is his guy, and we spent a lot of time talking about him, and that's kind of just the recent talks we've had about Dusty. It's just one of the things that kind of like when I thought of this question, he was like really the first person that popped in my mind. So for me, I think the most entertaining guy is Dusty Rhodes, and someone I'm going to just throw this out there as someone who I don't think – actually, you know what? If we ever say – you know what? I'm going to spill it, but don't be surprised if I bring it up if we ever bring this topic up on a future overrated, underrated subject. I think someone who is in the picture that is currently on the roster today, that's currently wrestling today, who does not get nowhere near the love he should be getting for as how entertaining he is. And this is going to be a hot take as well, too. This man should and will be in the WWE Hall of Fame one day, and that is one R-Truth.
I like it.
Yes,
I love that. That's 100% true.
Yeah, and it's just I just do not be surprised if, say, 25, 30 years from now, if we're still around and we're still doing this podcast and we revisit this question again. Do not be surprised if R-Truth gets brought up, because that guy is amazing. He can go, he can wrestle, he can make you laugh, he can make you cry. He
still looks 20.
Yeah, that man does not age
at all.
Nope.
Okay, so next up here, we are going to go with. Okay, so a little earlier when we were talking about the King of the Ring and Queen's Crown prediction picks, Joey K mentioned one Shinsuke Nakamura. And he kind of alluded to, do not be surprised if we talk about him later. So that's going to lead us into our next topic here. So recently, AEW has been pushing the fact that the 4 pillars of their company, basically the 4 guys that they are basing this promotion on, their stars of the future, whatever you want to call it, are Jungle Boy, MJF, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara, the new TNT champion. And this is a ploy off, I believe it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was the 4 pillars of All Japan Pro Wrestling.
The King's Row, yes.
Yes.
Well, originally the 4 pillars of heaven.
Of heaven.
Okay.
But
yes. So guys, we've heard the 4 pillars of AEW, but this little thing originated in Japan. So guys, going to ask you here, who are the 4 modern pillars of Japanese wrestling? And I'm going to lead this one off. So the first guy I'm going to name is, I think, someone that really, when you're discussing a topic like this.
Time out.
What?
I want to say this before you start.
Oh.
I think all 3 of us will have at least two of the same picks.
Okay. I know one. I could possibly see two.
I know one for sure. I can guarantee one, and I doubt any of us would say different. No, and I really think we're gonna hit two that each of us will have. And I think our fourth picks will be people that are very surprising. That's my prediction. So before I wanted to jump in before you even started that, I'm gonna say two picks. We'll wait till the end. Of course, whenever we get to that, but we'll see. I think it is. Go on, DDJ.
All right. So, like I said, the first one here is I think one of the guys that Joey's referring to that all three of us are going to have on this. And to me, he's basically, when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling, this guy is the man. He is a standard bearer, the flag bearer, the guy. Usually when you think New Japan Pro Wrestling, you think of this guy, and that is going to be the one, the only, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. I mean, this guy literally is New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can't have a discussion about the four pillars of modern Japanese wrestling and not have this guy in your conversation. I mean, multiple time, IWGP heavyweight champion, always consistently ranked near the top of the PWI 500. I mean, he's been all over the world. I mean, he's been just about everywhere. Heck, he main evented Madison Square Garden 2 years ago and stuff, and it's very, very few wrestlers in this world wrestled in a company other than the WWE can say they main evented Madison Square Garden for another company. So to be in that rarefied air, you have to have this guy on here. Now, my next guy is someone who is definitely a legend in the world of New Japan Wrestling. And I can't think again, much like Okada. I don't think you can talk about the four pillars of Japanese wrestling. And then when you throw this guy in, and that is the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi. I just think this guy he much like we mentioned R-Truth earlier, all these guys, like he's one of those guys that just does not age. I believe he holds the record, and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he still holds the record for most IWGP championships with 8, I believe. I know Okada's got the record for the single longest title reign, but this guy is ageless. I mean, in the last couple of years, I believe if I'm not mistaken, isn't he currently the IWGP US heavyweight champion? He took it off Lance Archer shortly after Archer took it off Moxley.
The first non-American to become the IWGP US champion.
Technically, wouldn't Kenny Omega be the first non-American since he's Canadian?
Well, non-foreigner.
The first Japanese wrestler to be the IWGP.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think that. And then for my third pillar, much like Okada, much like Tanahashi, this guy eats, sleeps, and breathes New Japan Wrestling. And I think he is basically the Stone Cold Steve Austin of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is one Tetsuya Naito. I mean, this guy basically started out his career in a tag team with Yujiro Takahashi, and I believe they were called No Limit. And I saw him a few times. Huh?
Team No Limit, man. I love them.
No Limit. And I remember seeing these guys, I think, when they came in over the States to do an excursion for TNA, and these guys were really good. But it's just something about when, Naito went to Mexico and he started running around with Los Ingobernables, and he brought that back to Japan. That's when the game changed. That's basically when Naito went from being down here basically all the way up here. And it's just, he's one of those guys that a lot of people, he was disrespectful. He wasn't like, he's basically, I guess you could say, almost the antithesis of Okada, where Okada was like the company guy. Naito, when he would have a championship belt, he wouldn't wear it over his shoulder. He wouldn't wear it around his waist. He would drag it on the ground, and he would literally throw the belt in the ring, but for some reason, the people identified with it. They loved it. I mean, he was like their anti-authority guy. And it's just, again, I mean, I know he's out with an injury right now. Unfortunately, had to withdraw from the the G1 because of a knee injury. So hopefully he gets well and gets back into the ring sooner rather than later, because he's got a lot of people, including this guy right here, who absolutely loves him and wishes him nothing but the best. Now for my last guy, and this is one guy who I think this may be who we're alluding to, and this was one that I kind of went back and forth because I had a couple others in mind, and there's one guy in mind I would actually think about throwing in here, but it's I don't know. But to me, if it wasn't for this guy, a lot of us might not even be watching New Japan to this day. And that is the one, the only, the current reigning AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Kenny Omega.
Wow.
If you think about it, Bullet Club doesn't really start blowing up until after Kenny has taken over the Bullet Club. Like in terms of like exploding in popularity in the US. Yeah, you got, Prince Devitt led, and then AJ Styles. But to me, Kenny Omega took it to the next level when it came to bringing the Bullet Club or getting the Bullet Club over in the States. And if it wasn't, you guys are giving me these looks here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I might be ruffling little feathers, but you know what? These are my 4 pillars. These are 4 pillars. These ain't your mom's 4 pillars. These ain't your daddy's 4 pillars. These are my 4 pillars.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, you want to get him, or should I get him? Because I'm ready to.
I'm ready to go in. Tag me in. Tag rope. Okay, here we go.
All right.
So I love DDJ that you have 3 pillars in a kickstand. I think that's fantastic. I really like that. However, as I said, I predicted at least 2 of our picks were all going to be the same. So I'm just going to kick it right off. Number 1, first pillar of the modern heaven is Kazuchika Okada. Hands down. I don't think anybody from the longest reigning IWGP champ of all time to headlining Wrestle Kingdom after Wrestle Kingdom. And yes, he had a wonderful dance partner for that in Kenny Omega for a couple of them. He also had a fantastic run match with Naito, I believe. I mean, can we talk about the Tanahashi feud? So, there's a lot there. And yes, everywhere he goes, he's loved. Look at the first All Out. I mean, he came out. He had a fantastic match against Marty at All Out. And All In. Sorry. At All In. And I mean, it was how over was he that night? He comes out, the Rainmaker, everyone went nuts.
Yep. His
entrance at the Madison Square Garden G1 Supercard, that was amazing. Everybody went crazy. He is the current modern face and the flag bearer of New Japan, in my opinion. However, he took that flag bearer title, his predecessor, Tanahashi. I think that's another pick that goes in my pillars because he carried the New Japan flag. Most title reigns, yes. I don't know if it's 8. I can't remember. I was thinking about it. I probably should have Googled it before I said something. I don't care. The truth is, he's timeless, ageless. He's classic. He is the face of New Japan prior to Okada, and even so, still carries that. He has the elder statesman role in New Japan currently. My third pick, since we have the 2 matching, my third will differ a little bit, and I did hint already at the King of Strong Style, Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, when I posed this question, I thought this way. I wanted it to be a pillar that may not be in New Japan currently, obviously in WWE. However, built their reputation, built themselves in New Japan. So this is why I go with Shinsuke Nakamura. And honestly, if he was more well-known in the States, he's on my list for most entertaining wrestler as well, too. Go back. You tell me better entrance than Shinsuke Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom 9. How the crowd just loved him. He was just that rock star personality that everyone latched onto. And then when he gets in the ring, when he became the King of Strong Style, man, everybody wanted to copy what Shinsuke Nakamura was doing. And when he came to WWE, and I will give credit where it's due, his debut in NXT in 2015, 15, right? 15 or 16.
It was one of those two.
So he had an amazing first match. I can't really think of many debut matches for someone debuting in WWE that went better than Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn at TakeOver.
Great. Yeah, it was
Unbelievable
the night
match.
before WrestleMania 32, I believe.
What's that?
I think it was the night before WrestleMania 32.
Yeah. And it's, to me, stole the weekend. Match of the weekend. They let Shinsuke be Shinsuke before he was main rosterized, as I like to refer to it. So he's my third pillar, the rock star. He's just amazing to me. Now my fourth, DDJ. I appreciate your fanboying for Kenny Omega. However, there is no taking anything to the next level without the Ayatollah himself, Prince Devitt. Prince Devitt, to me, is one of the pillars for a single reason alone. He took, as the leader of the Bullet Club, a brand new faction in New Japan, which we know factions in New Japan are very, very popular. This is why we have, especially modern day factions are still popular. And really it's because of these warring factions of New Japan. Took a brand new faction, started it. Basically the outsiders, the NWO of Japan, the true NWO of Japan. That's what the Bullet Club initially began as. And we don't have Kenny Omega taking it to the next level with the Bucks and then Cody coming in, all your other secondary players, of course, all the elite, the guys who are now running the show in AEW. You don't have any of that without Prince Devitt doing it first. We don't have what has only just this year alone been surpassed as the number one selling t-shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees is the Bullet Club shirt, the Bone Soldier Bullet Club shirt. You don't have any of that without Devitt. That was the first time in the modern era of wrestling where you could go and you would walk around and you would see people wearing pro wrestling t-shirts just out in the wild, and you counted them a lot. Not since Austin 316 or DX or NWO have you seen another major wrestling t-shirt that everybody wants. The bootlegs were every... For Christ's sake, Tama Tonga was selling bootlegs himself.
Speaking of bootleg Bullet Club shirts, you can get your own Shootin' Club shirt on our Teespring store. We'll give the information for that a little bit later. I had to get that in there. And Joe, before you continue, I got 2 words for you. You. Carry on.
What sold like a true salesman there. I appreciate that. I love it. And if it weren't for Prince Devitt, we wouldn't have our bootleg own version shirts either. So that is the truth. That's why I put Devitt, and he made a name for himself. A very, very, very popular superstar in the WWE world right now. And he has been for years, from the Demon character, all the things they've done. Did I hate the name change when he came to NXT? Of course I hated the name change. Prince Devitt is badass. That's the name to keep. But we're in Vince's world. We do as Vince says. So we get a name change all through all that. Shine through like the star he's always been. But that New Japan run that he had, and just, oh man, changed the game for everybody with the Bullet Club. Brought pro wrestling back to the forefront, in my opinion, too. So he's my 4th pillar. An outsider as the 4th pillar, but I couldn't go any other way.
You know what? See, unlike you, I'm not going to all over your 4th pillar there. I'm going to say, you made a great case for Prince Devitt, and I can't argue against that. Jay, what do you got?
See, for both of y'all, I'm a little blown away. We're gonna have some similarities and some disparities, like Joey K said at the beginning of this.
That's what makes the show great, though. We don't all have to be the same. We can be, ourselves, and we just give each other afterwards.
Hey, like
That's
I said, I thought we're probably gonna have two, and so far DDJ and I have two of the same, and I really thought that, I knew where that fourth one was gonna be shifting, and we've already had that too.
Yeah, you called it, man. And I mean, it's easy to carve out the two easy ones, Okada and Tanahashi, 100%. You don't have NJPW at its current iteration without those two. My third, I love the case for Naito. I really did enjoy that, and the more I think about it, the more it makes me want to put Naito there. You know what? Naito was the first ever double champion. Naito with LIJ, they're mega storylines every time.
Hang on, now we have to make this clear to everybody. We don't talk about our answers to questions prior to the show. Very, very few times. I think actually last week was the only time that all three of us in GIF form in our group chat revealed our answers for a question.
Yep.
Just joking around. But that we don't talk about answers. We let it go. We'll put the questions out there and, we'll throw out some little hints here and there. So that's why a couple teasers to each other, like, oh, get them thinking and who's picking who. We never really talk about this though. We don't. So when I say that I thought we were going to have at least two, the third was going to be interchangeable. And honestly, Jovan, I can probably tell you are right now debating of taking Naito as your third, but I also really know who your third is because I felt a third was going to all from us was going to be a Japanese star. I thought
what a time to freeze.
And then there was three more. I took Shinsuke, DDJ took Naito, and I can pretty much tell me if I'm wrong right now. Your number 3, Kota Ibushi.
Yes.
I got it.
It's funny that you mentioned Kota Ibushi because I was this close to making him my fourth.
And Naito and Ibushi were both on my list, and I put Shinsuke ahead for what he's done earlier. That's
See, my third. I'm gonna stick with it because I mean Naito. I think the drawing power for Naito is LIJ. Naito without LIJ falls flat to me.
Okay.
Kota,
fair.
The way fair. Kota was with the Golden Lovers, greatness. By himself, took it to a whole nother level.
Yep.
Gave NJPW that person to kind of fill in the void from Kenny Omega, that face that people like. Because, Kenny Omega, whether he was heel or face, he was over. He was massively over. And Kota stepped in like nothing. The man became God in a insanely great match where he beat Okada. So, third pillar, Kota Ibushi. Number 4.
Give it to me. Give it to me, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, give it to him so he can jump all over you.
I cannot for the life of me place a Gaijin, an outsider, in the NJPW 4 pillars. You look at the 4 pillars of heaven, the original King's Row. You have Kobashi, Kawada, Taue, and Misaharu. Misaharu, Kenta Kobashi, Misaharu Kawada, what was it? Tawada and Taue. Those 4. The thing is, those 4 they were interchangeable in all their matches. They put on the best matches with each other. Those 4 are like your key guys. These are your main guys who, within themselves, had these greatest matches. To me, you're looking at the 3 pillars I've established already. Okada, Ibushi. great matches. Okada and the Ace, fantastic matches. There's somebody in NJPW who, in my opinion, not only just his work rate, not only with how long he's been there, with his draw to the fans, with the connection that he makes, even when he could show up at a different show, the moment his music hits, people know who he is. And that is the king of pro wrestling himself. Guys, I'm surprised none of y'all said it.
He was on my list. I know.
Suzuki.
He was. Yep.
Come on.
Oh man,
Kaze
that's a
Ninare.
great one.
Here comes the king. Give me Suzuki.
Wow. And see, that's what makes this show great, because we have such varying opinions like this, but it's just when one person says this, it's like, how did I miss that? Or how did I not think of that? Or
I feel like on any day of the week, though, any of our picks are interchangeable.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are times where I'll pop in Kenny Omega. There's times where I'll swap out and I'll pop in, Suzuki. There's time Ibushi. It just depends. Yeah. Tonight, I just felt like that's my four for my reasons, and I think any single combination that we can come up with. I mean, like I said, two are locks. I don't think any of us would doubt.
Yeah, I think those
two.
First two that we all named, I think those two are going to be anytime. Like those two are like locked in, but I think 3 and 4 could always be, like you said, interchanged.
Yes,
and that's so. Okay, so.
That was a good one.
That was a great one. Definitely like what that sparked. So the next one here is we talked a little earlier about the most entertaining wrestler of all time. We all gave some really great picks and made some great cases for that. But we're going to kind of shift it a little bit here to the current area. A lot of great people that can talk and cut a promo. But if there's if you had one person, like you had to choose, who would your pick be for best on the mic in the current era? And when we define the current era basically as anything past the year 2000, just for those of you who are listening, and kind of this is what we define as the current era. So 2000 on. I thought about leading this one off. So, but you know what? I'm going to save this because I don't think either one of you are going to pick who I'm thinking. So, Jay, why don't you lead this one off?
All right. Oh, don't kill me.
The only way I could is if you steal my thunder.
Best on the mic in current era. The parameters we set was 2002 and on. To me, there's only been one person with a long enough history of great mic work, even given the fact that some of it might have been scripted mic work. When it wasn't scripted mic work, he still showed that he had the ability to do some amazing things on the microphone. And a big part of this does come from one gimmick and one gimmick alone. I'm not going to lie to you and say that everything he does is great. But one gimmick and one gimmick alone just kind of seals the deal for me. That is basic thugonomics. Give me John Cena. The Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick, when it came out, when he was off the top of the head, was fire promos. He was just rapping, dissing everybody, and it was for real. That came from a place where you believed it. Now, yes, you get into the career, and things become a little bit more scripted as we shift to more PG focus. But when John goes off script, you can tell, because certain things hit a little bit more. It stings a little bit more. Mm-hmm. He straight up told Roman, you've never been over. Come on.
Hey, how about when he looked at the Usos talking about you look just like your mug shots.
Yes.
I don't think that was scripted, but I think John's hit the point the same way that The Rock has. When he comes back, he can get away with murder, say whatever he wants. Look, John's at that point too. And yeah, you are 100% right on that.
That is one of the best shots I had ever heard in WWE, besides the Usos telling Xavier Woods not to get X-rated.
Again, that's a classic one too.
But yeah, that's mine, guys. John Cena.
All right. So
like
for
it.
me, there was really maybe three people when this question first, got discussed. Three guys that I thought of, and I kind of started thinking about each one and what they did and stuff. And to me, there's really only one person who's been consistently doing it for basically almost the entire duration of this modern era. I think about promos he's cut at pay-per-view events on behalf of his guys and everything. And this guy here could sell ice cream to an Eskimo. He could sell a grill to Satan himself. He literally could sell anything to anybody. And when I think about the promos he's cut, from the promo he cut at ECW One Night Stand when he told John Bradshaw Layfield that the only reason why you were WWE champion for years because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays.
Oh.
I'm throwing a technical foul. Technical foul on the play. It was specifically stated that it must be a wrestler.
No, it was the best talker.
No, you're thinking of a different question.
Was I really?
Yeah.
That was yeah. So you know what? You can take that flag and shove it up your.
I will kindly do so.
Wow.
Make sure you shine it up real nice and turn that sumbitch sideways first, though.
I will turn that sumbitch sideways and stick it straight up my candy.
I know what question you're thinking of because we had that short discussion about should we keep it to strictly wrestlers or do we open it up to manager mouthpiece types?
That was yeah.
Yeah, that was a different question.
That was the question we just discussed about the most entertaining wrestler of all time. That was that.
Yeah.
So basically, since you tried to cut me off and steal my thunder and you failed miserably, you think about
you miss every shot you don't take, DDJ.
What's that?
You miss every shot you don't take.
Well, you missed it. You took this shot and you missed this one too. So
yes, I did.
You were like, you ever remember that episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like early on in the show when Will joined the basketball team and Carlton got jealous? And he stole the ball at the end of he stole the ball from Will at the end of the episode and tried to do the game-winning shot, and he was 20 feet to the right or whatever. Yeah. That was me with that shot right there. So, so you just you just pulled a Carlton right there. So, anyways, getting back to the subject at hand, this guy here, like I said, he talked about the cutting that little promo on JBL. He goes to Edge and's like, I got two words for you, Matt Hardy. He talks about being the advocate for the reigning undisputed defending, Brock Lesnar, but he'd always say it, Brock Lesnar. And now the stuff he does with Roman Reigns. I mean, come on. Is there, in my opinion, there isn't anyone better right now on the mic and hasn't been anyone better on the mic in the last 20 so years than Paul Heyman.
I can't disagree. Actually, I can't disagree with either pick you guys have.
It's a good
I
pick.
can't disagree with Javon's pick. So
yeah, I mean, you're both correct. Paulie is, and I'm surprised you didn't even go back because last week we talked about factions that deserve more love than they ever got.
Yeah, with the whole Dangerous Alliance thing.
And the Dangerous Alliance, Paulie was the mouthpiece
for
a collection of guys who were in their own right, most of them great on the mic. Rick Rude doesn't need a mouthpiece, but having Paulie was money for that. Cena, I mean, we're talking about the Dr. Thugonomics here. Well, I mean, there's not many better than that period. And even in the PG era, there was a lot of great stuff and a lot of things that he could get away with. So I love that. I love both picks. I think you guys are both great. I'm going to throw it a little sideways, though, on you.
Oh.
My pick, again, another wrestler who has actually been competing and active almost this entire time of this era we're talking about, who is finally, in my opinion, getting that big national shine that he so greatly deserves, currently on the AEW roster. My pick for work in a career that has spanned CZW, Ring of Honor, PWG, TNA, Impact, is none other than the Mad King, Eddie Kingston.
That's a really good one.
If you guys want to talk about, actually, I was at Dynamite and Rampage this week. My shirt of choice was my Eddie Kingston shirt.
Was it the Redeem These Nuts one?
No, somebody else was wearing it, though, in my section, which I got a kick out of. No, I was rocking the Mad King shirt, which I love very much. And unfortunately, he wasn't there. I was a little disappointed in that. But in his career, you guys tell me another wrestler who brings as much realism and that much passion into what they're speaking about. As much as I can agree with both of your picks, do either of them inspire me to go, I got your back, brother, we're in this fight together, than Eddie Kingston? No. That's the type of promo that he cuts. And I think the world really got to see it when he came out on the TNT Challenge in AEW, came out and cut that promo on Cody and Arn. And what did he say to Arn? On my mother's eyes, I'll come in there. And I just was like, thank you. Thank you, Tony Khan, for bringing in Eddie Kingston, because that's what people need to hear. I know you just said to redeem these nuts, which is what most people will remember from that feud. That was the show right before All Out, right?
Yeah,
like, it was the night of Rampage right before All Out. So most people remember that. But go back and watch the promo package videos from the Dynamite before, when they're kind of doing like the vignettes, those promos. Please listen to Eddie Kingston speak.
Yeah.
Amazing. Go back to look at him working with LAX and that feud with the original LAX in Impact.
Yep.
Amazing. Talk about a mouthpiece and putting him in the same feud with Santana Ortiz. Like, this is, come on now. Like, there was a lot of good stuff happening there. The CZW days.
The NWA, when he was in the NWA.
NWA. I know. I was trying to like kick through some like major names, like, you know, and I'm like, I knew I was missing a couple in there. The NWA, Chikara, his work with Chikara, like, so many good things. The man's been cutting the most passionate promos of the last 20 years in professional wrestling, and I'm very thankful that he gets the platform he does, having that national exposure Wednesday nights on TNT, Friday nights on TNT, soon to be TBS. Or wait, did I get that flipped?
Yeah, Friday night TNT.
Friday night's gonna be TNT. Wednesday
night's gonna be TBS starting January 5th.
So I love and like I said, I can't agree more with both your picks. I just go on the side of, I love having that, a guy that inspires me to be like, that's my brother. I'm gonna go fight side by side with him. And the icing on the cake, I know we're talking, this is promo work. This is, you know, best on the mic right now. But is there anyone in professional wrestling that we just spoke about this, that embodies what the original four pillars of heaven brought? No one does. No one in modern wrestling does.
His gear is Kawada, and he wears Misawa during big matches.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, I look at his moves. Look at his move-sets. Hey, I mean, you want to talk about a strong style? He's got it. Yeah, the chops. There's so many callbacks to 1990s All Japan wrestling in his style. There's no better flag bearer for that era than Eddie Kingston. And then couple that with what he does on the mic. To me, I couldn't.
Look, I'm gonna hijack this one here. Tag me in.
Tag. Let's go.
Bam. Eddie Kingston, man. Hell of a pick. Hell of a pick. I will say this. If you haven't seen some of his promo work from Chikara, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a promo in Chikara when they were doing the anniversary show. Kingston was going after the main title. And it was one of those deals where they're like, it's, now or never. This is his last chance. He cuts a scathing promo on the whole locker room. And the key points of it is, I'm tired of making stars. Unbelievably great promo.
Just unreal.
And one of the things that when I was thinking about when you're talking about, Kingston, the promo work that he did after Revolution this year with the whole debacle with the ring exploding, I think he did a great job in kind of covering that up. And because really now nobody ever talks about that anymore. Like, you don't hear anything about it anymore. And I think a large part of that is due to the mic work and the promos that Eddie Kingston cut in the subsequent episodes after that. So that's the first thing I thought of when you brought up Eddie Kingston. And I thought about just how great of a job he did in kind of diverting everyone's attention away from what happened in that match at Revolution.
And I'll give you another look in, man, to Eddie Kingston, because I've personally had the opportunity to speak to Eddie Kingston, in a private setting and a public setting as well. Mm-hmm. And what you see is what you get. Eddie Kingston on camera in front of everybody is the same person as Eddie Kingston when you're behind the cameras and you're just talking to him. It's the same person. There's no difference. Put it into a point this way. We were supposed to have a kind of meet and greet with Kingston once. It was supposed to be virtual, but he was having internet issues. And I got a call from Kingston. I'm talking to him and, just straight up, man, I don't know what the hell is wrong with my damn internet. We don't live in the hood no more, but we can't get good internet out here. Maybe it's my iPad. It's too old. I'll give you a guy's call back when I go to my girlfriend's house. She's got a nice computer. We'll do it there. But just honest guy, man. Mm-hmm. And he holds nothing back. And you get 110% Kingston all the time. And I think that's why, like Joey K was saying, it's so genuine and you believe it and you buy into it. Because that Eddie Kingston persona, from his words alone, Eddie says, that's me when I was 17, when I thought people didn't care about me. So he gets into that mindset. He's going back to that well. He's drawing from it, and people buy into it because those are real feelings. It's not bullshit.
Nope. That's right.
Speaking of which, when he did do the virtual meet and greet is when I got to speak to him on a public setting. I have my son with me and everything, and my son, when he freaked out on camera, it was hilarious. And Eddie's like, "Oh!" He got real serious with him. But and this was actually
you talking about your little man.
Yeah. He's sitting here. He was pretty cool for a while, and then he's looking at Eddie and just freaked out. He's like, "Ah!" It was great. And Eddie got a kick out of it, which is really super cool. But my specifically what I spoke to him about, and what I asked him about was his promo work. And I brought up to him that, personally, I feel he brings this sense of realism, this real, you want to talk about the suspension of disbelief, as they call it, with professional wrestling. That's real. What he says is real. And I asked him about that and the influence of music and the music he listens to and lyrics, because you'll hear promos and I'll hear DMX lyrics. Yep. I'll hear stuff. And he says it. He pulls it straight from there. His musical tastes do vary and they're out in the open, but he hears something he likes. He hears something that he can get into. And then he pulls that and he relates it back to that 17-year-old kid, like Jovan just said. He gets all that together. And I think that is such a lost art in professional wrestling. A lot of this era we're talking about here, guys, and I think you'll agree with me, especially we've already spoke about it, is the scripted era of promos, right? So in this scripted era that we have, you got to be PG. You have to be very PC as well. You have to. We don't use these words. This is the banned word list.
This is the banned words,
and that's the era we're talking about a little bit. So for a guy to break through with something real, and that's why when Cena first burst on, that's why he was so real. That's why Paul Lee's got the pull. He can get away and say a lot of things. I think, what was it when Paulie, when he talks about he did that one interview, and he was talking about how he was supposed to go out and just bury Vince McMahon in a promo.
Mhm.
And he said, Vince, do you want me to tell you what I'm going to say? No, pal. Go make me money. And that's what you sure you don't want me to hear what I'm going to say, because I'm going to, nope, make me money. Okay. And off to the races. And that's from Paulie. And he went out there and he buried Vince for sports entertainment and not professional wrestling. And that right there, I love it. That realism, you bring it in. And that's why I go with Eddie Kingston, because I get that realism. That's the dude. That's my guy. That's the guy I grew up in the hood with down the street that I'm like, yo, Eddie's got a problem, bro. We all got a problem. We're going. And that, I love that. So I can get into it. And that, to me, that's what promo work is. And there's very few that carry that torch, because we're finally coming away from that scripted era of WWE, where guys in like AEW, guys who are in NWA, guys who are in Ring of Honor can get the passion, can speak from the heart. You don't have to worry about what words you're not allowed to say on television all the time anymore. You know, we're getting away from that era, and I love. Honestly, I'm surprised, and probably just because of how young. I thought one of us might have MJF on our list. I know he's to me, he's near the top, because that's a guy who cuts a promo and knows how to get the right kind of heat.
You know,
Yeah.
you're with the whole thing with MJF, we talked about how, like, say, 30, 40 years from now, we could be talking about so-and-so being on, like the 4 pillars thing. If we're doing this show 20, 30 years from now, we revisit this question, we could easily see us talking about MJF at this point in time. He's got so many years ahead of him. It's like I said, it's just, we're talking about guys that are way more established and been around longer. But yeah, 20, 30 years from now, easily could be MJF. So
if we cut this question down to like the best promo work in the past 2 years, and we narrow it down to like the past 2 years, let's say the AEW era, since AEW has been around, MJF is in the discussion, hands down.
I think basically, if we were, like I said, you could put him out. I think Eddie Kingston would still be in this. And if you're talking basically the AEW area, but you're including everything else, you can include Paul Heyman. Like that. That's the thing. Like we're not talking about just guys that were, in the early 2000s. These guys are still relevant today. And like I said, we could easily have these same answers, even John Cena to a certain extent, although he's not there that much anymore.
I would say that when he came back for this program against Roman.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got real John Cena. And I love that. And that is the testament. We just brought up 3 guys who have been heavily involved in the world of professional wrestling for the last 20 years. Right. Some longer, but yes. So that alone, that's why I said if you narrow this down and say, let's only go back the past 2 to 3 years, any one of our picks could be in the top 3, but I would put MJF in the running for that as well too. Right. But MJF, I look forward more to the future with MJF.
Yes, absolutely.
In 5 years, I mean, in 5 years we revisit this question, and we're probably all going to be like, MJF is just money.
I cannot wait for his first title reign, because it's going to be scorched earth when he gets the title.
Absolutely.
So we got 2 more. We got 2 more topics here, and we debuted this next segment we're going to do. We debuted this last week, and it got some pretty good discussion, amongst the shooters out there that listen to the show. And again, thank you for all of you that stuck around after last week's really sorry episode. But yeah, so
suckers.
Yeah.
So it gets better.
So, ladies and gentlemen, underrated, overrated. All right, it's that time for underrated and overrated. And on this one, we are going to be talking about we're going to be talking about something that I think doesn't really get a lot of love or talk these days. We always talk about best on the mic, best wrestling matches, stuff like that. But we don't really talk a whole lot about big men, because big men have always dominated the world of professional wrestling back in their early days of Gotch and Hackenschmidt to Bruno and Billy Graham to Hogan to Brock Lesnar and all that. So, but there's always, anytime you talk about anything in the world of wrestling, there's always people that see someone as being overrated, and then there's people that see someone as being underrated. And on this one, guys, let's get right into it. And underrated, overrated. This time we're going to be talking about big men. And Joe, this was your idea. You're the one that brought this up. So why don't you go ahead and lead us off with this? Let's do go ahead with your underrated.
I will kick off underrated. So, for me, this question, and the reason I brought it up too, I think there's a misconception, and like I wanted to wait till we got to the question to explain to you guys. So I went with this question as, some of what I saw this week in Dynamite and what I've been watching current product on TV. We are living in the times where size does not matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When we were talking about the golden era, the bigger the better. You wanted larger than life superhero comic book character looking gentlemen. Not
Keep
so much
it clean,
ladies.
Jovan.
Jovan's ready to drop a blue chew ad on me any second now. So
I'm just waiting.
So I take the idea of big men, and I'm not just going to talk about giants. I'm not just going to talk about, a guy who obviously, and this isn't a pick or anything, but like an Andre the Giant, who is a once in a lifetime type guy. But big men in general, I'm talking large, muscular, heavier, over 275 pounds, big, meaty men slapping meat in the ring. So I opened that up. So big men over, it can be a giant. It can be just a larger than life athlete person. But
Rapmaster PN News.
If he ever got his sneakers back that were stolen in that airport that he cried over, I mean, he might make the list. Look that story up for anybody who doesn't know it. It's pretty funny. But it was a European tour. Anyhow, so my underrated. I'm actually going absolute current modern right now. Because this question is all time, by the way. But underrated because of the family he comes from. Underrated B because of the company he works for. And C, underrated because, in my opinion, he is the one true tribal chief. Jacob Fatu is my pick for most underrated big man right now.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Look, and this came up too because I just finally, and I didn't want spoilers. I didn't watch it last weekend. Kicked myself in the rear for that. But Thursday night they aired the MLW Fightland
that was
our special.
Yep.
And we got Hammerstone versus Fatu, champion versus champion, which has been a very big build getting to that. So I loved it. It was a great match. Two very big. Honestly, Hammerstone, another underrated big man, just because he's not the typical one in there, and Jovan just flipped me off. So obviously I know who his pick was now, and that wasn't mine. But sorry, I'll let you go. I'm gonna let you finish, Jovan. I'll let you go with that. But
nope. I'll pick someone else.
Jacob Fatu is my guy. Underrated because he is part of the Samoan dynasty. He is part of the Inouye family, who, obviously most famously, The Rock from that family, Roman Reigns, obviously Rikishi. You have the Usos. You have so many legends out of this family.
You have Nia Jax.
Exactly. The next generation. How about Simone, The Rock's daughter? She signed with NXT. She's training down there.
You also got, I believe, the Usos' younger brother just signed with NXT.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
So you have so many members of the family. But to me, as an underrated big man, the things that I watch Jacob Fatu do, how he moves in the ring, is borderline terrifying to know that there are human beings that are built that large, that strong, that powerful, that have no problem with beating wholesale ass, whether you're in the match or you're a fan that oversteps your bounds. Please, somebody look up the clip of him beating that fan's ass at a show ringside. That's a terrifying human being. And large men shouldn't be able to move the way he does. And it's amazing to watch. I feel he's underrated because he's in MLW. He's in a company that doesn't get the love and the adoration that they probably deserve, because honestly, MLW shows are fantastic.
Dude, they're amazing. I've been to like 2 of them.
I mean, going live, I'll even watching on pay-per-view. You know, you can get them on Fight. You can order them up. They're not super expensive shows to watch, but they deliver. Fatu, though, carried the title for one of the longest reigns in MLW. I don't know if it is the longest, but through the pandemic, it is. Was it the longest? Did they say that?
Think so.
I want to say it was. I wasn't 100% sure, but
because it was what, about almost 2 years, or over 2 years, I believe he held the title.
Yeah. It was over 500 days. I remember that.
Him and Contra.
I think he wanted the. I think it was a show. It was back in, because I know I was at the show when he beat Lawler for the belt, and I want to say I think that was the July. I think it was July 6, 2019, and I only remember it because it was like 2 days after my dad passed away, and I went to the MLW show that was in Cicero, which is basically right outside Chicago, and I believe that was where Fatu won the title when he beat Tom Lawler.
Yeah.
So you're talking almost 2 years. So
he's talk about a guy who carries a flag for his company, has been the heavyweight champ for 2+ years through the pandemic era that we just came that we came through, and that we're still pretty much in. But I mean, just absolutely underrated for what that man can do in the ring. He tells a great story in his wrestling. You can tell he carries that lineage that he has, but he adds his own take to it. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I would never picture guys that look like the Wild Samoans diving over the top rope and doing corkscrews and things like that. And it's amazing to watch. So that's my underrated.
Yeah. I was going to say, and then if you want to get into your overrated, if you want us to all go through, we do our underrated and we go back and do overrated. But one of the things, and I just thought about this because you talked about a Savage Samoan. I believe he was known as the Samoan Savage, but doing the things he does. To me, it's almost like he's a combination of the old school Samoan wrestler and the new school Samoan wrestler. Yes. I mean, he's that wild, like Alpha and Sika, but at the same time, he's also, like you said, he's the Rikishi, the Roman Reigns, the Usos, with the stuff he does now. So I think he's that perfect blend, of, and you also go back to the Savages, you throw in Umaga, and stuff. And I think he's probably about as close to Umaga in terms of the type of character he is than almost anybody else. And
but mix in with Jimmy and Jay, because he can do the high spots, he can do the high flying, he can do the dives.
He did a Van Terminator on Hammerstone.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, the things that he does, he carries that old school Samoan tradition, but what he does in the ring compared to modern work is like, oh my God, I didn't expect that. I didn't think I was going to see that out of somebody that size and that body type, that style. To me, that's my hands down underrated right now. And that really is the past, I would say, the past 4 or 5 matches I've watched with Jacob Fatu, every time I'm like, oh my God, at least twice a match. Oh my God, I can't believe.
And if you haven't seen Jacob Fatu lately, he compared to how he was a couple years ago, he's really slimmed down. He's gotten leaner. He's gotten into he is just in amazing shape.
And
Jay,
and he's still cooking probably around 300 pounds or so.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, Jay, perfect time for your Blue Chew promo.
The only kind of big man slapping meet that you want to have, Joey K, is the one that really does matter. So for all of our shooters out there, if you want to be the big kind of slapping meat guy that Joey K likes, you need to go ahead and chew it, and do it with Blue Chew. Make sure that your 300 pounds can get up and at them when it's time to go.
All right. On that note, who's your underrated, Jay?
My underrated was Alexander Hammerstone. If you don't know Hammerstone, you need to watch him. Great guy on MLW. Doesn't get the respect that he deserves. A lot of people say he's the second coming of Hulk Hogan, which I don't agree with. He is 100 times better than Hogan was, just because of the body size, the style of wrestling that he does. So maybe, he wore red and yellow a few times. People are like, oh, it's Hogan. Get over yourself. No, it's not. But since Joey K decided to throw in Hammerstone with his Fatu pick.
Well, I didn't really want to throw it. It just happened to pop up because that was the match I just watched.
Yeah, was it just on the other night?
So you must have taken your Blue Chew because it just happened to pop up. But anyway, I'm going to give you another underrated big man. And this big man doesn't get enough credit for what he's done, not only in the industry of wrestling, but when you think about this big man being an Olympic wrestler, in real life, this guy wrestled Yoel Romero, a UFC middleweight contender. I'm talking about the man from the island of Guam, the one and only Jeff Cobb.
Love it.
Guys, I don't know if the reason is because maybe he, worked a majority of his career under a mask for Lucha Underground. People don't equate him for being Matanza Cuerdo. But Jeff Cobb's moveset, just way in the ring is unbelievably great. He doesn't get the respect he deserves, and hopefully, MLW catches steam. Hopefully, NJPW catches steam, because I feel like Jeff Cobb may show up in MLW one day, but NJPW, they need to get him on strong. Let the US citizens see Cobb where he deserves to be seen.
You talk about guys from New Japan showing up on MLW. It was just recently announced on the MLW Fightland special that one Will Ospreay is going to be coming to MLW. So that ought to be interesting.
Which is why I said his heater might come with him.
That could be.
Hey, let me throw something in here and piggyback on that too. Cobb could easily be my 1B pick because I've been a fan of Jeff Cobb for years. I met him a couple years ago at Ring of Honor show. The coolest dude.
I've heard that about him.
So great, so good. I mean, I have nothing but amazing things to say. His in-ring work has gotten so much better too. I mean, especially now,
brute strength monster.
If you are currently not watching the G1 right now, with what's happening and Cobb tearing through the bracket, please do yourself a favor. As of this recording, I believe he's at 10 points now.
Yep.
Yeah. Let that man do work. Let him do damage. And I want to see him so bad win the G1, go on to Wrestle Kingdom. He deserves a spot in there. That's a guy who puts the work in. That's a guy who is absolutely severely underrated. I can agree wholeheartedly, 110%. In fact, so much so that next show I will be wearing my All Day I Dream About Suplexes Jeff Cobb shirt. So,
nice.
All right. Well, that is a great pick. And apologies for my son dropping off. I had an issue with my webcam that just kind of all of a sudden decided that it was no longer connected. So my internet was still working, unlike Mr. Jovan's there. So did he freeze again?
No.
Okay.
He's just faking it out.
We used to do that all the time. Yeah, I remember those days and stuff. But for me, you guys, great picks, with Fatu, with Hammerstone, and even throwing in the Jeff Cobb there. For me, when I always think of underrated, I always think of someone who I thought was amazing and pioneering a bit ahead of his or her time, that doesn't get love. And my pick for underrated big man is no exception. This was really, I think, the first big man to really be able to do the high flying things, like doing the moonsaults, the cartwheels, things like that.
Oh, I know who you're gonna pick. I can feel it. I can feel it already. Go on.
I'm gonna sit there and say this guy was pretty big in Japan at one point in the late 80s, early 90s. But even before that, he he had tours of duty in the NWA as well as the WWF in the mid 1980s. In fact, I believe he had a little bit of a main event run alongside Hulk Hogan, in late 87, early 1988. But then, he also come back, main evented WrestleMania one time, WrestleMania 11 against for NFL Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor. I'm going with Bam Bam Bigelow.
Man, great pick.
Because
head tattoo.
because he's another one of those guys that really doesn't give the love that he deserves. Because I mean, he was doing like these high flying big man things before anybody else was. I mean, he was doing the cartwheels in the ring, to show off to the crowd. He was doing like the moonsault. He had the flying headbutt and stuff. And I mean, it's just this guy was, he was like 350, almost 400 pounds. But he didn't move like that in the ring, especially when he during his first run in the WWF. And I mean, it's just, and if you guys are watching on YouTube, and for those of you saw who Jovan was alluding to, thought I was going to go with, and those of you who are listening to this and know on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, first off, regardless of wherever you're watching the show from or listening to the show from, thank you. But Jovan had was doing the little. And that was the symbol for Vader, who's someone that I actually also thought about with this as well, too, because he was also that. But I mean, it's just, to me, Bam Bam Bigelow was like a guy who just really just deserved so much more than he got. And we talk about his stuff that he did in the WWF and the NWA. He had a tremendous run of a couple years in ECW where he, won the ECW world title. I believe he won the ECW television title. He was the guy that
triple threat, baby.
Huh?
Triple threat, baby.
Yeah, the triple threat. He was part of that history, that one of like the first real big, oh my God moments when he dropped Taz through the ring, and then they did that rematch and he dropped him through the entry stage and stuff. Yeah. And it's just, this guy was so revolutionary for a guy his size to be able to do the things he was. And it's just, for me, there really isn't any more of an underrated big man than Bam Bam Bigelow. So, Joey, let's go to the opposite direction. Let's talk about who do you think is the most overrated big man. And I think you had warned us that you were going to probably ruffle some feathers with this. So, ruffle away.
Oh, I know. The DDJ household is going to be up in arms very soon.
Oh, no.
For me, overrated big man is absolutely hands down someone who I just never was into. I think he gets way more credit than anyone else. Way more credit than he really deserves. And just based on his size alone. And I am going with Mr. No More BS himself, Paul White. I think the Big Show, Paul White, is the most overrated big man of all time.
Ladies and gentlemen, open auditions for Joey's replacement will begin. We'll begin tomorrow.
I knew my pick would soil the good name of this show, just like my hot takes that no one wants to hear from last week. However, I will say this. Let's be honest. If he didn't have the size, he wouldn't have anything. I don't think the charisma is there. I don't think the mic work was ever as good as his contemporaries. When you put it in the era when he came around, as far as big men on a microphone, I'm not even a huge fan of somebody like Kevin Nash, but I put Kevin Nash years ahead of what the Big Show was doing.
I'll go with you there.
And I don't think it caught up. I mean, it did. He got better. I mean, naturally, you keep doing something, you will get better on, but it never got to the point where I would be invested. And he was a company guy. I will give him that. But when you go heel, face, all back and forth, I have no vested interest in you. I don't have enough of your character. I don't have enough that I want. And for sheer size, yeah. I mean, outside of a guy like Andre the Giant, which let's go back. The Giant was billed. They brought him in to hint that it's Andre's son. I mean, that was how he came and broke into the business when WCW brought him in, and he was greener than goose shit. Let's be honest. And he did not have a lot of great matches in WCW. He was really learning. By the time he got broke through, that was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre when he threw Austin through the cage, and that's how Austin won the cage match. That was his big surprise debut in the aspect of history. A huge get for the WWF at that time, because at that point it was really who's leaving WWF and going to WCW, who's going to jump into the NWO. That's what everyone was talking about. So to have a guy like the Big Show come in and kind of steal that thunder back a little bit was good, and it was great, and it worked. But I beg you to go back to that era and watch how flat it fell in the following weeks from his Giant debut. No pun intended.
Mhm.
It did. It really did. I had no interest beyond his debut in the WWF. That was the only thing that he did to me or did for me that was like, oh, I'm interested in this. And then it all just went downhill. I think he's overrated. Always have, always will. Can't change my opinion on that one.
Nor would I want to. You made a case for it, and I've always been a firm believer in you are entitled to your opinion, and you have a right to your opinion. Nobody can ever say your opinion is wrong, although there are some people out there that like to think that they can.
Very true.
I don't agree with it.
No, I know.
Because again, I had I'm a little bit biased because, I just recently got a chance to meet, Paul White and just had an amazing experience with him and stuff. But I mean, you made your point. The heck was
what
that?
are you doing?
Huh?
You're not muted.
Oh shit.
But yeah, no, you made a very well articulated argument, and I will never sit there and be.
I know.
And that's
we look, hey, for everybody listening, everybody watching, we do this all in fun. I think a lot of us, as far as the three of us go, I think there are so many times where our opinions line up. And then there's some times where our opinions are so drastically different, we have to take those shots and jabs at each other because it's humorous. I mean, we could each give you a top 10 right now. Everybody who's listening, a top 10 of anything. And I'd be willing to bet 6 or 7 of our picks would all line up. I mean, fairly easy. We know what each other, and we lean certain ways. We lean certain styles, things that we enjoy, but overall, I think we enjoy a lot of the same things. We're fans of the same things. And I think one of the dynamic aspects of our show is we get to kind of build those arguments for what we enjoy. Underrated big men we just talked about. There's a case for everyone that we talked about. And honestly, 3 of my all-time favorites too. So I could have thrown in Bam Bam because he was the guy doing those things before anybody else. And yeah, I know. Hey, when DDJ said moonsault, my mind went, okay, Vader. But then he said cartwheel, and I was like, that sounds like Bam Bam, and that's why I thought he was going that way. We all have that same train of thought. So sometimes, like last week when we varied of who the better heart was, and we have a good throwdown on it. And and here we go again. No, we want people to listen to this episode, so we can't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
But we have these varying opinions, and we'll throw out facts to back our cases up, and I love it. So it's all in good fun. I think more times out of anything, we agree with each other. So we really dig the shots in when we don't, just for the fun of it.
And this is going to be the case here, DDJ. I'm sorry, you're going to have to look for 2 hosts because, to quote The Rock, there's only one person who is an overrated big man that comes to mind immediately. And he is 7 foot, 500 pounds of grade A monkey. The peeper.
Hold on.
Fail.
Hold on. No, you. I didn't fail you. You guys failed me. Okay, hold on a second. Go ahead.
7 foot tall, 500 pounds of grade A monkey. It's
Actually, to quote The Rock.
Okay, even I gotta admit that was funny when he used to do that.
It was great.
How many
One of the best promos ever.
Best of Rock promos did that make?
God.
Every single one of them.
Or if we're talking about this kind of stuff, or when Scott Hall would do the choke slam and then he would go. I popped for that too. I popped for that. Not gonna lie.
Classics.
And just so you know, we're being fair across the board. It wasn't just because he was a face one day, heel the next day, face on Raw, heel on SmackDown, face on the pay-per-view, heel on Velocity or Heat afterwards. It's not that. It's not just that. It's not that he showed up with the bad ponytail, because I could let that go. I mean, we let plenty of other people with bad ponytails. I'm looking at you. You know who you are. We don't really talk about you right now because you're in Heat. But innovator of violence, horrible double ponytails. We let ponytails go. But what I can't let go is he was so big. It was supposed to be such the big deal that he fell flat. He debuts like Joey K said. It's the Giant. Who? Why do we care? You're interfering with an Austin match? Okay, yeah, you rip the cage off, he falls onto the floor, he wins. You didn't even do your job. Then, I mean, Big Show's most noted in the WWE for getting cut down by The Rock. The Rock had his way with Big Show every single time he could. Not only the 7 foot, 500 pounds, but when he went bald, The Rock gave him the business then too. So there's just highlight reels of people digging at the Big Show. And for somebody his size and the attraction that he was, you would have thought he would have been a little bit more of a champion contender than what he was. But he never really realized the championship front. I mean, Jericho was good. Most of his title reigns just felt like placeholders. I don't really think that he was ever a legitimate champion. Maybe when he came back and he was doing his WMD, you know, that punch that'll knock you out with one hit, but then the first guy who pretty much kicked out of that ruined that whole gimmick because that punch doesn't really have the same effect anymore. Then, you know, your whole gimmick becomes you're just one punch, and then you're crying on TV. They're making you look like a wimp. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, Big Show.
Time out.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to throw a rapid fire out there. Based on something you just said, and it made me really think about this. So I'm going to switch gears here and not just talk about big men. I'm going to talk about specifically giants. So we know we have a much smaller category because the Big Show Paul White does fit into the giant category. All right. So rapid fire. DDJ, does a giant in professional wrestling need a title? Yes or no?
No.
Javon, does a giant in professional wrestling need a title? I think he fell asleep. Oh, there we go. Okay. Man, we got some connection issues tonight, brother.
It didn't start until after midnight.
So my take on that is I get your point about the titles, but I put him in that category. Andre never needed the belt.
I was just gonna say Andre never needed one.
Because he was there for the
needed one.
True. And so I do see your point, but I just wanted to bring that up because I always I do put Show in that. There's a lot of things I'll go against him why I think he's overrated. I'll hold back on the title aspect of it just because they're the attraction. There's not a lot of human beings walking the earth that are that size, let alone can do a lot of the athletic things that they can do. And I'll never discredit that. I think the Big Show is very talented at what he did, but it just didn't work for me. I'm not walking it back. It never worked for me. I try not to say this, and I don't want to call people out. And I'm not a wrestler. I'm not in the ring. I don't train that way or anything like that. So I can't sit there and say anybody's, oh yeah, that's trash. I everything he does stinks. I always try to refrain from that, and I don't want to say that because everybody who gets in the ring has ability. They take the bumps. They put themselves at risk for our entertainment. Correct. So I think it's a fair point to say, if I say it, I'm typically saying out of a joking manner, but no, I don't think he really had the set. The skill set compared to other giants or big men. Let's talk about Giant Baba. We've been talking about All Japan anyway tonight. I mean, Giant Baba
booked himself really well.
He did book himself really well, and that's what happens when you run the company. But at the same time, though, Baba was never a guy that needed. And see, now we're getting away from. People are going to be like, "Who the hell's Giant Baba?" Which is really fun.
Issues.
Yeah. But they're like, they're making things up now. Giant Baba, though, he was never like physically wise. Like he was the attraction. He knew that, and a lot of All Japan was built. But then we just sat there and talked about the 4 pillars and these legends of All Japan that were not Giant Baba, and they didn't look like him. So, did he book himself really well? Yeah, he did.
It's a mix.
But he never needed a belt either. He never really needed a title because he was always an attraction. When people talk about Giant Baba back in the day, they're, oh, wow, Baba's this, Baba's that.
So for Big Show, let's hit this rapid fire real quick.
Okay.
Did the attraction aspect of it, because he was billed 1/2 attraction, 1/2 actual every week wrestler. The attraction aspect, does it kind of hurt him being that serious big man? Because you can't tell me the everyday worker and then the same guy who fights Floyd Mayweather is going to be the same type of worker.
DDJ, go for it.
Run that by me one more time, Javon.
So the attraction aspect of the Big Show, does that hurt his actual stock? Because, we're talking about him being overrated. I am, and Joey K is. But that's because he was a weekly wrestler. He was he was one of the guys in the back every single week. But he was also that attraction they threw out there, a la the Floyd Mayweather fight. So did his attraction parts take away and maybe make him seem a little bit more overrated than what he actually was?
Yeah, I guess in that aspect, the way you explained it, because I was thinking, okay, Brock Lesnar's billed as a special attraction. Does that hurt him? No. But he's not a weekly wrestler, say, like the Big Show was and stuff. So he actually, when you kind of said that in, yeah, I think that does. If he showed up every once in a while, like a la Brock Lesnar or, something like that, or, he wasn't billed as like a special attraction. He just was this big guy, like Kevin Nash or whatever, Big Cass or whatever, and stuff. I would say then, yeah, maybe he might be viewed. He might actually be viewed a little bit differently if he wasn't always billed as an attraction and stuff. So, yeah, I could definitely see that, being in having an impact.
And I'll go 100%. Yeah, it had an impact because the skill set didn't manifest to a weekly wrestler. And also, let's be real, he was in an era of weekly wrestling. He debuted in the Monday Night Wars. Yep. Okay, so he was absolutely part of that. But the attraction of having a 7-foot, 500-pound man in the ring, and this is why a lot of people throw these comparisons out there to, oh, well, Big Show and Andre are in the same category. No, they're not. They're really not. And the reason to me they're not is because you have 2 completely different eras. You have the attraction era. You have the territory era where, Andre comes around once a year. He's not there every Monday night for a 2 to 3 hour episode of Raw or Nitro. So that's different. I'll even throw the question deeper. Would Andre be overrated if he were in a different era, say the same era that the Big Show came up in? Because then you have that aspect.
Absolutely, because he would have been exposed.
Right. He would have been exposed.
You have that, you lose the attraction. Yeah, we got real deep on this. But you have that attraction, and you take the attraction part aside and you just go on basic skill. And look, and I don't think in Andre's case, especially, it's no fault of his own because with Andre, his body deteriorated at a rapid rate, and he couldn't do what he did. But I would beg anyone to go back and watch the older Andre stuff.
Absolutely.
From the 70s.
Yeah.
Andre could move. Andre wasn't the same size he was when we think about getting slammed by Hogan at Mania 3.
Right.
When he had to wear a back brace in the ring at Mania 3 for that.
Yeah.
They made a big point of that on the WWE Hidden Treasure show or whatever when they were looking for memorabilia things for the warehouse, that type of stuff. He wore a back brace for that match. He couldn't move. He couldn't do it. Like physically, his body deteriorated so much. So yeah, I mean that's a question I pose for any real true giant. You know, you take the attraction aspect away, and on a week to week wrestler, I don't think the giant era would work anytime currently. Which is a shame because that also leads back to our original first start of this was where we talk about underrated big men. That's why we're in the era of a guy like, let's just be honest, because I'm wearing his shirt right now, All Elite, baby. I mean, let's be real. Adam Cole's not the biggest guy in the ring.
He's probably going to be towards the smallest guy in the ring.
Exactly. But he's so over. This is the era we're in now, where your size, your strength, those things don't matter. It's how well you speak, how much you get over with the crowd, and yes, your wrestling in-ring ability. Those are the things. I mean, we look at a guy like Will Ospreay. Physically, like I don't think, injuries aside, he's changed his style up since his neck injuries and stuff like that. But we talk about Ospreay. Go back, watch Ospreay. A guy like Ricochet. These are not guys that would get over in a territory era just because they didn't have the size. Yeah, they're not over 6 feet. They're not shredded. They're not 285 pounds. So it's a totally different time. That attraction goes away, and now you're looking at a lot of skill, and that's why we're in the era we are now. We've had almost 30 years of weekly episodic wrestling. Think about that, gentlemen. Almost 30 years of it.
Can I finally give my pick for overrated?
No, I don't even want to. No, we got so sidetracked on that. We got to get back
so
to
deep.
No, it's really good topics or discussion that come to that. For me, I like if this one, like I kind of had to do some digging, but when I found this person or when this name came across my screen on my phone, I was like, "There's my pick right there." And again, this isn't a slight on him or whatever. This guy, but it's just to me, he never really did it for me. And I mean, he was some people regard him as one of the, the best big men, but I don't think there was really much to it. And honestly, for me, like, I'm going to go with King Kong Bundy as being overrated.
Wow.
Because really, when you think about like big men in the days, we talk about the modern era big man, we talk about, Jacob Fatu, Hammerstone, Brock Lesnar, like these absolute big guys that can, do these insane things that like the guys that are normally like 220, 230 would do. Heck, even compared to Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader and stuff. I mean, there really wasn't much to Bundy, in my opinion. I mean,
that's a hell of a pick.
The only thing that really kind of made him stand out was the 5 count, which was cool. But I mean, to me, there's got to be so much more to that. And yeah, he had his little main event run against Hogan, at WrestleMania 2. And I mean, the only other like thing that I feel that Bundy did that really sticks in my mind besides the stuff he did with Hogan was his guest appearances on Married with Children as Peggy Bundy's cousin from Winker County.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's so. And I mean, and yeah, he squashed, I think it was one of the I don't want to say the M word, but one of the little people in WrestleMania 3. I think it was I can't think of what his name was, but it was like the little beaver, I think is who it was, and stuff, But I mean, it's just when your resume, you had a WrestleMania main event match against, Hulk Hogan, but really he didn't do anything else, and stuff. And just to me, he just was just a big guy who moved around the ring and, splashed people in the corner and made the refs count to 5. And just, to me, that doesn't really do a lot for me.
Well, I like that pick for one reason and one reason only. Because exactly like you said with him and Hogan, that's the biggest thing I could think about for King Kong Bundy.
Mhm.
And yet he's always put up on such a high pedestal that even like his autographs go for insane amount of money right now.
Especially now because he's no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace, King Kong Bundy.
Right. But I mean, even like when he was still on circuit, his autographs were still insanely priced. And that pick of him and Hogan, forget about it. That's upwards to 5 to 6 if you get the right person. But man, that's a hell of a call, King Kong Bundy.
I'll one up both of you guys on this. The same train of thought. I'll give you the first 5 WrestleManias. WrestleMania 1, everybody still talks about. It's the original. It's number 1. You had great, huge moments in it. And most of the time, you skip right to WrestleMania 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Mania 2,
yeah.
You're talking about Hulk Hogan, heavyweight champ, defending his title, steel cage match, King Kong Bundy, and it's just overlooked. I mean, this is the guy who had the main event program.
And the only other match you really talk about from WrestleMania 2 is the Bulldogs versus the Dream Team.
Exactly, which, in my opinion, stole the show for Mania 2.
Absolutely.
Mania 2, though, was a bit of a mess because that's where they did the split show.
They threw them through the 3 different arenas.
Yeah, and I don't think that worked well because we've never seen it really work out again that way. No company has run a show like that, as far as I know, right? Where you have the same show, they're doing from multiple locations.
I know WWE has done it. Like, they just recently did it where they did, I think the show was like in Cleveland or something like that. And then they had like matches from that music fest in Florida or whatever. But like in terms of other companies doing it, I don't think anybody's ever done it.
Yeah, it just doesn't get over that well, in my opinion. Because if I'm paying to go to WrestleMania, you're damn right I'm going to watch every match for WrestleMania, right. And I don't want to sit there and watch. I might as well watch it at home on TV. Like you're going to better advantage view. But back to my original point, this man was in the main event program as the heel monster that was supposed to dethrone Hogan for the heavyweight title, and it's overlooked. That's the highlight. It's an overlooked match, from an overlooked Mania because it just didn't really hit.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and great picks.
Good stuff.
So we got one more topic here, and I mean, the last couple topics really sparked some great conversation because we're almost at 2 hours here and such. So, but we just keep the conversation going. When you get in a good conversation, you lose track of time, and that doesn't even factor in. So this is the last question of the night, and I think this is one that really kind of centers around. To me, when this question got brought up, I know recently CM Punk did some comments, about how like AEW should try to cater to, the fans they already have, like the hardcore wrestling fans, whatever you want to call it, instead of maybe trying to draw new fans, like take care of the fans that are there and stuff, instead of trying to attract the casual viewer or something along those lines. I'm sure I probably took those those comments out of context somewhere and stuff like that. But in any product, business, whatever, you're always trying to grow your fan base, your audience, your crowd, your, customers, your clients, whatever. And, professional wrestling's no different. So I believe Jovan came up with this question here. So we're going to let him lead off with this. But gentlemen, what is the one wrestling match that you would show someone who's never watched wrestling to get him interested in the product? Jovan, what do you got?
I've been toying with this idea ever since I thought of the question earlier. And to me, it needs to be a match that stylistically is appealing to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Story-wise, it's something that's easy to follow and something that you can explain right away. Somebody who's never watched wrestling, you want to be able to give them the backstory on the match quickly, and you want the match to speak for itself. So you need something that has a lot of in-ring storytelling. For me, I'm gonna go with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks.
Oh, that's one I was thinking
That's a
about.
good one.
The match itself has a lot of backstory that you can kind of get into. You could tell whoever's watching it for the first time. Here's the story going in. This is the build-up. This is how we got here, and this is why it's important. And you can do Cliff Note version so it doesn't get too boring, because I did have a good build, but you hit the high points and then you let the match play. And then you start to see small things throughout the whole build, throughout the story that they were telling in the match play out. That kind of match, and especially with it being arguably one of the greatest tag team matches of all time, should be something to hook a new fan.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And again, I was lucky enough to see that one live, and it's one of my. I've been going on in this, going back and forth in this up until recently. This was unquestionably the greatest match that I've seen live. But Joe, do you want to do yours now, or do you want to wait?
I'll go last. Go ahead,
All right.
DJ.
So I love that pick again, because I got to sit second row to see that match, and it was just an amazing match, and it's the ups and downs and pitfall, close pinfalls, the false finishes, everything like that. To me, when I think of something like this, that where if I want to get someone who's not a wrestling fan to become a wrestling fan, what would I show them? And you can always say, I show them Flair versus Steamboat, or Austin versus Rock, or whatever. But if we're trying to get someone interested in the product today, I really feel like you need to show them from something from within the last couple of years or so, because that is what this product is. Is at. Like, you don't want to go show someone, like I said, I'll just use Flair versus Steamboat because it's their second match. A Clash of the Championships is my all-time favorite match and stuff. Like, I wouldn't show someone that today, because that's not the type of wrestling that they're going to get if they start watching it week to week. Now, if they're really getting into it and they want to see some of the older stuff and see what wrestling used to be like, then I can show them that match. For me though, you mentioned Hangman and Omega versus the Bucks. To me, I'm going to go with a match that, honestly, I'm going to combine this with a hot take and say that this is now the greatest match that I've ever seen live. I would show them the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in the cage from All Out. Because to me, I actually, I was at the show. Jovan was at the show. Joe, you probably watched the show, correct?
Oh yeah, I watched it.
And I, again, I won the suite to go, in for the All Out giveaway that they were doing and stuff. So I got to take a bunch of people with me, and one of the people that was there with me was my cousin Jerry's 21-year-old daughter, Katie, who's just kind of really getting back into wrestling. And I think about, her going to the show and us talking. She's like, I don't really know who a lot of these guys are, stuff like that and stuff. But and I think about, my wife who was there, who's really not into wrestling, that much, but she came, she brought my son with, so he got to see his first show and stuff. And he was so excited to see Paul White. So I hope he doesn't watch this, because if he listens to the show and he cries after hearing you guys talk about his guy,
buddy.
White, I'm going to be very
Sorry,
mad.
man.
Anyways, going back to it though, that cage match had everything. It had story. It had psychology. It had blood. It had violence. It had tons of false finishes. Jovan can probably attest to this. The crowd was pretty much standing for the most part. I mean, there were times in the match where you thought the Bucks were going to go over. You thought the Lucha Brothers were going to go over. When Brandon Cutler threw in the spiked shoe, or the shoe laced with the thumbtacks, and that got involved. And you're saying, oh, come on, after all of this, this is how it's going to end. Cutler's going to help the Bucks win without, throughout the cage. I mean, it literally has everything that I think someone, a wrestling fan, wants in a match. it got to the point where it elicited such a reaction at the end when the Lucha Brothers won that my cousin Katie's dad, Jerry, who's very close to me. I think of him as like a brother to me. He went from sounding like a country guy from southern Indiana for the next like 2-3 days when I talked to him, sounding like Flying Brian Pillman, because he lost his voice literally during that match. And he was a huge Lucha Brothers fan. He was super excited to see them go over. But just to me, if I'm going to show someone who's getting into wrestling, something that, like I say, this is what wrestling is, and is this day, and this is what exemplifies wrestling, I'm showing them that match, the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in the cage from All Out.
Very good takes. Very good matches. And I am going to be the fly in the ointment for the show once again.
Of course.
The premier Joey K actually has a 1A and 1B involving the same superstar, the same legend. And my matches are 26 and 24 years old, respectively. So, but even though they are classics, they embody what I would show to somebody and say, this still holds up today.
I think I know your 20s from 24 years ago. I have a hunch.
Yeah, I wonder. So I'm going to go back to the first one. This is my 1B. And at any time, I will say this. These two matches will alternate 1A and 1B. But tonight, 1B has none other. It's from that dirty bingo hall in South Philly, ECW.
Ooh, I think I know this one too.
1995, Dean Malenko versus Eddie Guerrero, 2 out of 3 fall match.
That was their last night, right?
That was their final night, and actually that was the point I was going to make. The beautiful thing about this match is you have 2 of the all-time best in the ring against each other in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So now you're going to get the extended match. You're going to get the story, the drama, especially that these 2 characters can build. And you went from a crowd chanting, "You sold out," relentlessly to both of them, since they were both leaving. They're both going to WCW at that point, to chanting, "Please don't go," by the end of the match.
I remember watching that match on like channel 18, like the local cable access channel.
We had it on channel 48. That's our local cable access here for out of Philly. It was channel 48 at the time. That match to me holds up today. 26 years later, I looked up the date. It was August of 1995.
Yep.
Unbelievable how well that match holds up. That's my 1B tonight. But my 1A also involves Eddie Guerrero from 24 years ago.
This wasn't what I was thinking, but I think I know where you're going with this.
Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title versus mask, Halloween Havoc. Unreal match. Again, and now we were talking a match that has a story, a match that builds up. Eddie, the absolute hot heel Cruiserweight champion, against Rey, who, not the Rey that everybody knows from the WWE run of Rey, but the original, talk about underrated. Jesus, he came out and he's dressed as the Phantom, underrated movie of the 90s. Yes. But the Phantom outfit, the all purple, and they threw down an absolute classic match. Was it a little predictable in the finish? Probably, because Rey wasn't going to lose his mask just yet. And unfortunately, that time did come and he looked like he was a 12-year-old child, but that's besides the point. The truth is, that is a classic match. And I would beg anyone to give me a point and say that those 2 matches do not hold up today. They do. In my opinion, 100% they do. And I think agree. Anybody you want to show real good wrestling, because in my opinion, you can piggyback that and say what these guys were doing in the mid 90s to late 90s is the reason we have what these guys are doing. The reason we're seeing what the Lucha Bros are doing on AEW in 2021 and winning the tag titles against the Bucks. You don't get one without the other, and they hold up so well that you could have that match on today, and it would be like, oh, stop what I'm doing, I'm watching this, and it'll steal the show. I would beg you to put either of those two matches on any current pay-per-view right now. They would steal the show, hands down.
Yeah, those are really good ones here.
Good picks. Good picks.
Yeah.
Even though you went outside the bounds of current products, I'll allow it.
I couldn't help it, because the more I thought about it, the more I thought that it has to be something that still holds up.
Yeah.
Let me be real. One of the easy answers, like DDJ said, Steamboat Flair. Easy answer. How about Savage Steamboat? Everybody holds that match so high from WrestleMania 3. Another one. Does it hold up? Yeah, it still does. I'm not going to lie. I can enjoy it. But there are matches that hold up, and there are matches that will hold up the test of time and will be talked about 30 years later that they could steal the show today. And I think those two do. Yeah. I have to lump them in. I couldn't pass it up.
Hey, that works for me and stuff. So, alrighty then. So that was great topics, great discussion on everything, and stuff. So, before we call it a night here, I know Joey was at this past week's Dynamite show and Rampage tapings, and I think he kind of wanted to shoot a little bit on that.
Unfiltered shots from Joey K.
Well, all right. Let's shoot a little bit on AEW Dynamite and Rampage from Philly. 2-year anniversary of the Dynamite show. I was there in attendance live. Nobody bearded me, so screw all you 6 people that listen to us. Number 2. No, I'm serious.
And there goes the rest of our fan base. Thank you very much.
Cutting them down one by damn one. No, the truth is this. We went to the AEW show and overall had a great experience. I want to hit on a couple things I observed. Number 1, directed towards AEW. Please do better. You have a rabid fan base that will literally buy used toilet paper with an AEW logo on it. So how about you actually
ice cream bar wrappers for like $50 on eBay?
Exactly. So how about you step up your merch game a little bit, get Ryan on the phone, get a few extra orders into Pro Wrestling Tees, and take care of your fans. You marketed this as the 2-year Dynamite anniversary show, and we get the lamest clip art looking shirt that you could possibly make with the AEW roster, and it just says, I was there, AEW Dynamite. No specifics to Philly. No specifics. And you know what? I'm even okay with not having a specific to Philly, but do something for the 2nd year anniversary. It's the 2-year anniversary show that they hyped up so much. Mm-hmm. Throw that logo on there. You don't even have to call out the date or the city. I'm okay with that. You would have sold tons of them. Number 2 about the merch. Do yourselves a favor. Take a look at your roster and look at who your champs are, and maybe even have their shirts there. I was almost embarrassed in the fact that Kenny Omega is the AEW champion, and they didn't have a single Kenny Omega shirt for sale at the only 2 merch tables that they had in the entire building, which was cut down from the last AEW show in Philly when they actually had 3, and they had a ton of product there. You could get any superstar pretty much on the AEW roster at that point shirt that night. But this night, we had a Dark Order shirt. We had an Elite shirt. We had a Black CM Punk shirt, which I probably should have got. Oh, well. We had the All Elite Baby shirt. And we had the Dynamite I was there shirt, whatever. I don't know. Fisher Price, my first Microsoft Paint job. It's ridiculous. So AEW, do better on the merch. It was slightly embarrassing. A lot of people were ready to spend a lot of money. New York got special shirts. Chicago gets special shirts. Don't hype up Philly and then throw them nothing. Really, come on, do better. That's observation 1. Observation 2. AEW fans, do better. For Christ's sake, take a shower. I have never walk through a stinkier crowd than what I experienced there. I mean,
That's an ECW guy saying that.
this is a guy was at the, and I'm not talking about the 2300 with the nice little outdoor bar and the table set up. No, I'm talking about the bingo hall where someone shit in the corner. It smelled better than some of the fans walking by me in the section. So AEW fans, that's to you. Do a little bit better. It's not all of you, but there is some, and you ruined it for the rest of us. Number 3, I want to talk about why I went to the show. I wouldn't pass up the opportunity to see CM Punk. If I haven't made it obviously clear, CM Punk is one of my all-time favorites. Absolute, hands down, one of my all-time favorites. From Ring of Honor to WWE, now to AEW. I, hands down, will follow CM Punk through his entire career until he retires, and then I will probably chant one more run. So, that said,
Got a bad feeling.
I got to see CM Punk wrestle live as opposed to watching All Out or Rampage. And I get it. I do. I've seen a lot of commentary about, oh, Punk doesn't look like he's in shape. Or I've seen commentary of Punk doesn't look like he did in his last WWE run. When I saw him wrestle live and I saw him wrestle Garcia for the hour of Rampage, it dawned on me. We're getting the exact CM Punk that CM Punk wants to be. And I love that. We're not getting CM Punk 2013 WWE. We're not getting CM Punk, bless you. We're not getting CM Punk Ring of Honor 2004. We are getting AEW's version of Punk. And if I could put on my little tinfoil cap and predict some things, I think we're going to see a heel turn. I think we are going to see something very similar to the Pure Division in Ring of Honor. And I think CM Punk is going to be the number one heel in professional wrestling again in the somewhat near future. I won't say very near future because I think he even mentioned it in his promo. He's really enjoying the love fest. Let's keep it up. Let's give the fans what they want. Let's sell some merch. Let's sell some shirts. Let's get the people chanting CM Punk. Even though he said cheesecake instead of cheesesteak, it's an amateur move. It's a rookie move for a guy who said he lived here in Philly. I mean, it's Punk.
Maybe they got good cheesecake in Philadelphia. I don't know.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I can get down on some good cheesecake. I'm not going to lie. Look at me. I'm a big dude. So, but what I saw from CM Punk in the ring is what I felt is very deliberate. The downside is I don't think that's translated well to television. And I don't think watching it on TV that you quite get it. But when you see it live, I did. I think the Darby match is probably a little because that's the emotion of the moment. That's the first match back. It's technically a main event type match for All Out, the biggest pay-per-view of the year for AEW. In my opinion, it's over top of Double or Nothing, but I don't think it translated well on television. And it made it come across where a lot of people, I saw comments of, oh, I waited for this from CM Punk. That's not what I wanted. I want CM Punk of this era. Punk has always been known when he changes characters, he changes his hairstyle, he changes his facial hair, he changes his gear, whether it's something small or something large, even the color of his gear, whatever it is. I think we're seeing a CM Punk style that is building to something bigger down the line. And I like where that's going. I appreciated it and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Punk didn't finish with the GTS. Did he tease it? Yes, he did. But what did he do? You guys watch Rampage tonight?
Anaconda Vice.
Anaconda.
Prior to that, he hit the pile driver.
Oh, yeah.
Old school pile driver to the Anaconda Vice. But even before so, they made and of course, watching it live, you don't hear the commentary. So I watched Rampage tonight so I could hear the commentary, hear what was going on. Certain things I missed because the crowd was pretty loud. Also, I'm going to touch back on that in AEW in a second, but on Punk, the body slam sequence. Did you guys catch that? Did you hear what they were talking about? Did you hear what Taz and Jericho were going back and forth with on the body slam segment? When Punk picks up, scoop body slam, looks around at the crowd, picks him up again, another body slam, looks around at the crowd. I think we're getting a Punk that he's not there for the flips and the flash and the high flyers. He's there for the classic style wrestling. He's bringing that old steamboat style of wrestling back. That's what I thought. That's what I saw. I sat there with my brother. I said the same thing to him, and I'm like, I like where that's going. If that's the direction they're going in, I love it. And I think it will bring something so new for a lot of AEW fans who've only been fans of AEW, who really don't have that backlog, that history, that maybe are only now exploring professional wrestling because of what they see in AEW. You're going to get something really different, and he's going to make you hate him. And when you hate CM Punk, oh, you guys are going to get a really great version out there. And I know I'm not talking to you two specifically. You two guys know what I'm talking about already, I think. But for the fans who haven't experienced a real good heel CM Punk, you're in for a surprise. I think that's a big thing. And then lastly, I will touch on it because I've already alluded to it. AEW. Great edit job tonight because I watched Rampage and I was there. I did not hear those chants from the crowd that you played on air tonight. And that was a little surprising to me. So a little clever WWE piping in the crowd noise edit style there for AEW tonight, because I was there in the building. And when Max came out with the Acclaim and did his rap, which went over really well, especially when he got to the Ben Simmons section, that arena went nuts. It's actually made national news. There's a lot of national outlets that are saying an F Ben Simmons chant broke out at All Elite Wrestling in Philadelphia, and it did. And it carried through the entirety of Rampage, and it carried all the way out till people were working the concourse after we all got sent home from Tony Khan, Jerry Lynn, CM Punk, who made a showing, Taz, Chris Jericho, and Dean Malenko all in the ring. So if you guys haven't seen that online, I do have a video I could share with you guys. I took a nice video of it. It was really good. Highlight point of that when CM Punk kind of snuck out because he wasn't part of the group that was introduced. And he came out and he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to remind you guys, I was an ECW champ as well." And a great pop from the crowd for that. It was really funny. I laughed at that one too. I thought that was kind of clever. But that chant went through the whole night, for Rampage at least, and they edited it out. And it's funny, as I watched Rampage back tonight, I saw guys mouthing what I just said, but I hear a Lucha Bros chant on my TV. And I was like, oh, we got clever. We wanted to cut that out because it was loud and it was dominating. And I assure you, the Acclaimed are over. They're really good. I will say that they're really good. And the fact that Max got held off TV for his not so PC lyrics that he didn't get cleared by Tony Khan, he's coming back out with more fire, and I love it. He still pushes the envelope, and it gets that crowd so into it. So props to them. Overall, I was thoroughly entertained, top to bottom, the entire show, the entire card, from the dark matches in the 7:00 hour, the entire episode of Dynamite, everything for Rampage, top to bottom. It was a fantastic show, amazing show. Really, I'm not trying to fanboy out for AEW. I just call it like I see it. If it was a stinker, it was a stinker. I can say this. It's not often where I would say the worst match of the night was featuring the Elite against Bryan Danielson, Christian Cage, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus. And that was probably the weakest link. But man, was there a huge pop for Bryan Danielson when he came out. And that was big, and I was there for that, and I was there for CM Punk, and I wanted to see him do the stage dive, and I wanted to see him wrestle. And when he said he was wrestling, that crowd went nuts, except for that one guy in my section who, when he asked, do you want a cheesesteak or do you want to see me wrestle? And there's just one cat yelling, cheesesteak, cheesesteak the whole time. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's got to be one. And then when Punk did wrestle in the match, I wanted a cheesesteak, just yelling. I mean, guy, Tony Lucas is downstairs. Go get something. You'll be fine. But I was there for it, and I love it. I really had a great time, like I said. And lastly, quick point. They've outgrown the Liacouras Center in Temple. They can do a bigger venue. They should do a bigger venue in Philly. I think the ticket sales will still be there. But I feel like they've kind of outgrown that. It was great for the third show of AEW Dynamite in 2019. I was there for that one. This time around, feeling a little cramped, guys. I think it's time to move up. Bigger things, better things. If SmackDown can run the Wells Fargo, I think AEW can run Wells Fargo in Philly. I have no doubt in my mind. Because WWE didn't sell out SmackDown 2 weeks ago in Philly. I can assure you of that. There were still tickets available at Showtime. So, and there was a lot of tickets left over Showtime. That's clever editing. And you can do that with the hard cam side. You can do a lot of things like that for AEW. But I don't think AEW will have a lot of problems selling tickets there. I think they can make it happen. But for Christ's sake, do better with the merch, guys. People want to spend money. They want shirts. They want to be fans. I mean, it's there for the taking. Let's go. Let's get on that one.
All right, and on that note, it is time for us to call it a show. We're going on easily our longest episode ever.
Easily,
but there's a lot of good talk, and it's definitely, if you here at the end and you started with us at the beginning of this episode, thank you. I hope you.
What are you doing, dummies? Why?
Do you really want us to have any fans after this? Did we just say, you know what, we you know how there's that one episode of South Park where it's like you have 0 friends on Facebook?
You know, I'm still trying to figure out how I don't get a discount on our own shirts. Why do I have to pay full retail? That's hot garbage juice.
Everybody has to.
Speaking of t-shirts, hot one, talking about how people can join the Shootin' Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to become part of the official Shootin' Club, check out the links in our show notes. It'll be exactly where you need to go to our Teespring website. We have the Shootin' Club original black, because every wrestling shirt is black. But then for people like Joey K, who gets hot in black, we have a white option. It is beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Give yourself the chance to wear a great shirt. And as we already said, if we see you shooting in the street, we'll buy you a beer.
Right on.
Hell yeah.
And then also, guys, if you want to reach out to us on social media to give us an idea of a topic you want us to shoot on, or if you want to offer your opinions or takes on some of the topics we've talked about on this episode or any past episodes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see our socials right on the overlay here. If you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, Google, or whatever, and also on YouTube, we'll have our socials on there as well too. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, you guys, we're going on almost 2.5 hours of talking, and I don't know about you, but I am ready to get some shut-eye.
I agree with you. It is a beautiful 2:12 a.m. here on the East Coast. This lovely early Saturday morning that we are recording here for you, for the dozens, and I do mean dozens of fans that listen to us. We appreciate every single one of you. This is the number one, the A1 since day one, the Pacific Island Playboy, the premier Joey K. And I do want to say I appreciate every single one of you. I do want to tell you, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, rate us, review us, hit us on social media. Anytime we do get out there, let us know. Talk to us in public. I don't mind. Let me know. Give us your thoughts on the show. Questions, thoughts, opinions, anything you want. Hit our Teespring store, support, join the Shootin' Club, wear it proudly. Hey, we'll sell knockoffs from the trunk too. I don't care. It's probably going to be cheaper because I still got to pay full price, which is a bunch of crap. But anyway, hit like, hit subscribe. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
Do you want some cheese with all that wine?
No, I just want some wine with my wine. That'd be nice.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. This has been Shootin'. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for listening, everyone.